Thank you so much. When your pastor mentioned this to me, I never say no. If somebody says, will you share what God did in your life? I'm 100% in all the time. I'm not a professional speaker. You'll find that out very quickly. I'm a dentist by trade, so my form of public speaking is saying, Pastor Crenshaw, you need a root canal and a crown. That's my form of public speaking. So I'm just going to tell you a story today. It's a story, and this is, you're going to find out too. I'm not a crier. I cried 2 times I can remember. One was when at my dad's funeral, and the other time was every Little League baseball game I ever lost. I cried like a baby. So now I'm more of a crier. You think it gets easier to tell the story with time. It doesn't. This past week I pulled out my phone and I was reading through some of the posts, some of the notes we took during what we call Jennings' journey. My oldest daughter Reagan put together a video of the whole thing. It tells the whole story. And I can't watch it all the way through. It's very hard for me. So we call this Jennings' journey. Pastor said, do you have a title for your message? I said, no, no title. She said, well, do you have a verse for your message? I said, no. And I texted her that night. I said, can I tell you these things tomorrow? Because I didn't know. Well, we decided to title this, Pray for Jennings, because when this all started, I didn't know hardly anything about Facebook. And I don't know if you guys know a lot about Facebook, but at that time I knew nothing about it. And Dana, my wife, said, we need to incorporate people that have faith in God to pray for our daughter. I said, okay, well, how do we do that? She said, let's create a Facebook page. So if you want to go back through, look up, I guess it's still on, Pray for Jennings. And you can read the whole thing. It is an amazing story. It's something that you never want to go through. And I know some of you have gone through this. And so you can empathize with me. That's where I'm at today. December 28th, 2013. So we had an anniversary, which is basically a birthday. December 28th, just 2 days ago, of Jennings having a little cough and 102, 103 fever. She didn't feel bad. She didn't look bad. She just had a bad fever and a little cough. You think, well, she's not that sick. And I'm one, I never went to the doctor. You know, I grew up in Marshall, small town. By the way, 5th Sundays were always my favorite Sunday in a small church because I knew this is what we did, right? I knew we were going to eat. But, so she had a little cough. And Dad and I were sitting in the living room, and she was in the bedroom, and we were talking about, well, her fever is not going down. It just won't go down. We're giving her every medication we can. And out of the blue, she's 14 years old. She walks in the living room to Dana and I and said, when are we going to do this? And I said, when are we going to do what? She said, go to the hospital. How many 14-year-old kids asked to go to the hospital? I said, baby, does it hurt to breathe? She said, no, it's hard to breathe. I said, okay, we're going to the hospital. So we go to the hospital, emergency room, and she's perfectly fine, other than a little cough and a fever that won't go down. Sitting in a waiting room, she declined rapidly. She got to the point where her eyes just glazed over. She had a drink. I'd gone to Whataburger to get us some breakfast. And she had a drink, and she could just barely hold the drink. And they finally got her back to check her out. And that's when the tornado hit. It went from, well, she's got a little fever and she's got a little cough, to immediately we're sedating her, intubating her, we're putting a tube down her throat, help her breathe, and which hospital do you want to go to, Shreveport or Dallas? And I said, wait a minute, we've got a little cough and a fever. They said, no, your daughter is not well. I said, okay, well, I said, let's go to Shreveport. And we had some friends of ours that were there with us in the waiting room. And they had health issues with the child. And she said, no. She said, no. She said, you need to go to Children's Hospital in Dallas. So I went back in and to the hospital. The receptionist was a patient of mine. And I said, is it possible to change your mind on these things? And she said, I'll make it happen. They called, they said, well, Children's Hospital is full. They don't have a place for your daughter. Okay, well, we go to treatment. A minute later, she comes and says, they have one room, and your daughter has it. So, okay, perfect. So now we wait. They're going to air flight her from Marshall to Dallas, but the jet is busy. So they have a helicopter. Well, they and I can't ride on the helicopter with her. At this point, again, she is completely sedated. We can't talk to her. No communication. And as they're loading her from the emergency room onto the helicopter, it's the worst thing you ever want to see. They've got a bag breathing for her, and they're pumping her chest. I'm thinking, she had a cough and a fever. One of the nurses said, gave my wife Dana, said, here's my cell phone number. She said, I'll call you. Or you call me if you want to know anything about the flight, because they said she may not make it to Dallas. So we get in our cars. I'm in my car, she's in her car. And we both need gas. Imagine that. So we've got to drive to Dallas. So we go to 59 I-20 to the Chevron to get gas. We're fixing to drive very fast on I-20, very fast. And I said, well, if the cops put the lights on, I said, keep driving. They can talk to us in Dallas. Well, we get to Chevron, and standing outside of Chevron is this great big muscled up sheriff who I happened to go to high school with. And I said, Greg, we're fixing to tear up I-20. I said, is there any way that you could call ahead and tell them if you see two black vehicles going about 130 miles an hour, can you give us a little leeway? He said, no, I can't do that. He said, but I will call. I said, okay. You know how many sheriffs we saw on the way there? 0. Doesn't happen. We get to Children's Medical Center, and we find the place. Kind of amazing. Reagan is the one that, my oldest daughter is the one that kind of said, well, you need to go over here. How does she know where to go in Children's Hospital? So she got us there quickly. We get up there, we go to the 11th floor ICU. We get there, and it's like you have to know a certain secret code password to get into ICU Children's Medical. We push the little button, intercom. Can I help you? He said, yeah, we're Jennings Neel's parents. Can we get back? Silence, just like that. Silence. Wait just a minute. Okay? So they and I wait, and wait, and wait. And finally, they open the door. And it's almost like the Dallas Cowboys offensive line pushed us. We were not allowed to go back and see our daughter. Pushed us into this little room and said, wait here. Okay? A little cough, fever, and now we're here. And so we sit. It was 6 hours before we got to see Jennings. When we saw Jennings, wow. Hooked to every possible machine you can be hooked to, and this is not the way my daughter should be, right? So we sit, and we wait. Finally, we talked to doctors, and they told us they didn't give us the diagnosis. They just said, "Here's where we're at. let's see, you have one option. I said, okay, we're taking that one, whatever it is. And I've never heard of this. They said ECMO, ECMO. There's an ECMO machine. And I said, what does that do? They said, well, it takes the blood out of your dog. It runs it through a machine to put oxygen in the blood, and we stick it back in your dog. And I said, well, if we don't have an option B, we're going to option A. I said, hook it up. And so we began that little journey right there. Again, that was December 28th. The 29th, we finally got to talk to, the way ICU works at Children's is about whatever 3 days or so you get a new doctor. Okay, you don't have the same doctor is not caring for Jennings the whole time. It's a new doctor. And so our first experience was with a Dr. Sheehan. And she was one of those from the very beginning, as a dad, as the dad of a daughter that's sick. I didn't care for her. I really didn't. I didn't like her that much. She didn't strike me as. Dana has an uncle that's a retired physician down in Belton. I said, Dana, call your uncle. I said, check this doctor out. He looked her up, called back, said, this lady is world-renowned pediatric ICU physician. So, strike one for me, right? I should have known better. So she is grade A, top notch. She tells us December 29th. And they have these little rooms where they can take you and give you information privately. Our lovely doctor decided not to do that. Dana lived in an ICU waiting room about the size of probably this room for 3 months, or month.
A week before I went to the wrong house.
Anyway, so she decides to, and we've got friends and family in this waiting room, and other families too there. And so she decided this would be a good spot to give us the diagnosis, rather than a little private room. She sits us down. She says, your daughter has the flu, H1N1, which is swine flu, the killer flu. Your daughter has double pneumonia. In other words, her lungs are filled up with fluid. Oh, and by the way, your daughter also has in her lungs MRSA. MRSA is a flesh-eating staph infection. So she's got an infection that's eating her lungs are filled up with fluid, she can't breathe. She says, no one survives what your daughter has. Very few. That's exactly how she did it. Very few. You know what I saw right there? I saw that mustard seed. And she said, very few. I said, okay. So there's that little bit of hope right there, right? Again, I wasn't a big Facebook guy. That night, one of my very best friends from dental school put a post. We haven't said anything publicly at all yet. He put a post on randomly. We looked. It was this finger with a mustard seed. He put that on that night. And so Betty and I said, if we can have the faith of a mustard seed, Jesus is going to live. This world-renowned doctor just said, your daughter's going to die. We said, we have faith. Jimmy's going to live. I named her Dr. D. Dr. Death, okay? I just said, didn't hear. New Year's Eve in Children's Hospital on the 11th floor ICU, they do a buffet for all the families that are there with children that are in ICU. And so they have a nice buffet up there ready to go. The doctors came to us New Year's Day, I guess, New Year's Eve, and said Jennings is not doing well. So again, ECMO is taking the blood out, oxygenate the blood, put it back in you. There's two types of ECMO, what's called VV, a vein to a vein, or there's a VA, which is very dangerous, vein to an artery. And they said Jennings is not surviving on VV ECMO. Again, they finally took us back to a little private room and said, Jennings is not doing well. Our only option is really to go to VA ECMO. And they said, this is dangerous. They said, they thinned her blood out, so your blood has to be water. I mean, it's so thin. Matter of fact, the night we got to Dallas, they thinned her out to put her on ECMO, and her pupil, left pupil, blue, what they call blue. It went, there was no eyeball except for a pupil. And they said, well, that means a brain bleed. I said, well, her blood is water. How's it going to stop? We've got to get her in to get a CAT scan and find out the damage. They could never get her stable enough to take a CAT scan. They said, we just have to ride it out. In that night that we began to pray, the pupil started to shrink. And they said, basically that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So prayer is already starting to work. Perfect song to lead us out today, Sweet Hour of Prayer, because that's what this message is about. It's about the body of Christ, the individual people that make up the body of Christ, that will believe and pray. We can make things happen. I know. We will. New Year's Eve, they said, all right, well, we can do this surgery if you want to, but her blood is so thin, we have to cut into an artery, one of the big arteries. And odds are, she's going to bleed to death. They said, do you want to do this? I said, are you kidding me? Of course we're doing this. I said, yeah, we're doing it. They said, well, we've got a group of surgeons ready to go, and we can have it done. We can start in half. I said, let's go. And again, we've got everybody's coming to visit. It's nice. We have a lot of support from family and friends. And Dr. D is on duty that night. Imagine that. So, this is what she says to Dana. She said, we're going to do this surgery. Odds are she's not going to survive. This is exactly what she said. She said, but you still have your prayers or whatever. She had no faith. Dana and I are still praying that this experience changes her. I hope it has. He had no faith. She said, we have our prayers or whatever. I said, yep, we do. We saw the chaplain. We had been in ICU long enough to know when the chaplain comes. The chaplain comes when a new family comes. The chaplain comes when a child dies. And that's it. So they're preparing Jennings for surgery. And I told Dana, I said, I'm going to go back. Again, we're in the waiting room. I said, I'm going to go back and just see Jennings one more time, before the surgery. So I get back there, and man, there is chaos. And they've got her room sealed off, and there's the chaplain. And so, of course, he catches me again. He stops me. Well, you can't go back. They're sterilizing the area for surgery. I said, that's fine. I don't need to be beside her to pray for her. And he had that look of just, And I said, chaplain, we have all the confidence in the world in your medicines, your machines, your doctors. We have confidence in that. All the confidence in the world. Guess what's in the world? The world. But I said, our faith is in God. I said, so we're believing that this surgery is going to work, period. It has to. So I go back and sit, and Dr. D comes to us in the waiting room and says, Dana's getting on me. I have note cards. This only took an hour and a half last time, so I'm not using my note cards. She comes to the waiting room, and she says, well, your daughter survived the surgery. She said, we're going to get things cleaned up, and you can go back in just a minute. Okay, good. Finally, they said, okay, you can come back. Well, Dana's shaking. I mean, Dana is, I have a brother who is an emergency room nurse that was there with us that night. And so they said, you can go back and see Jennings now. And I knew what she was going to look like. Dana knew what she was going to look like. Wasn't even good. And so Dana said, I can't go. Jerry said, my brother said, I'll go with you. I said, okay. We go back. Everything's a number in the hospital. Everything's a number. They're looking at your blood pressure, and especially in her situation, her oxygen level. We're sitting here in this room. Our oxygen levels are anywhere from 92% to 100%. That means we're up and going. We're live and breathe. Hers was 23%. And the doctor would say, pull another level, pull a gas, blood gas is what it's called. Pull another blood gas. 23. I look at Jerry and he said, go get Dana and y'all go have some dinner. I said, okay. I said, I think that's probably a good idea. And again, that's the buffet night, right? So I go get Dana. I take her the back way. Around, because you have to go through ICU to get to the buffet. I did not want her to talk to anybody. I didn't tell her a thing. I told her nothing. I said, she's fine. Jenny's just fine. So we go the back way. Remember, Dr. D is on duty. I take her the back way. We see one person on the way. She comes around the corner. Who is it? Dr. D. I said, oh, I didn't tell Dana. Now Dr. D's going to tell Dana. Dr. D walks by and says, well, everything looks good. And walks on. I went, okay. We met a doctor. ICU, you have a doctor for every part of your body. And the very first night we were there, I meet the doctors. Well, I'm taking care of this and I'm taking care of that. We met a doctor again that I guess I didn't care for from the beginning, because he said, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm the nephrologist. I take care of the kidneys. He said, we're not even going to talk about that right now, because if she lives, we'll talk about it later. I said, thanks for the encouragement, Doc, you know? And so when he said that, I did him the old attaboy, pat on the shoulder, and I said, you mean when she lives, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Jenny, the only casualty we have in this was Jennings lost a kidney. She lost a kidney. Why? Nobody knows, but she did. So she had one kidney. This same doctor that said, well, if she lives, we'll worry about her kidneys later. We had to start Jennings on dialysis. She was still sedated, intubated. She didn't know anything. And so she was on dialysis, and the doctor said, your daughter's going to be on dialysis for the rest of her life. Just point blank. I said, okay, she's alive. We can do dialysis. Not a big deal. As Jennings progressed, finally, this same doctor came in and told us, just very dry. Well, we're through with dialysis. Jenny, she doesn't need dialysis anymore. And I said, wait a minute, you said she needed dialysis forever. No, she's done. And I said, what happens if she needs to go back on dialysis? They said, no, once you're off dialysis, you don't need anymore. Okay. So the doctor who thought she wasn't even going to live now said she'll be on dialysis forever, now says she no longer needs it. Jennings is better now. She's up, doing rehab. And I wasn't there, Dana was there. And Jennings is up, standing up by herself, brushing her teeth. Everybody should brush their teeth. She's brushing her teeth in the mirror. And this same doctor comes in and looks and just says, and Dana said, he's just almost in tears. He knew this girl should not be alive. The surgeon who did the surgery, going from the VV ECMO, New Year's Eve, VV ECMO to VA ECMO, the surgeon who did that surgery came to check on Jennings. He was doing his rounds, ICU, And he walked past Jennings' room and went back and said, "She's still alive?" That's the surgeon who did the surgery. Guys, Jennings should not be alive. But through the power of God, she's alive. I tried to work. I needed to work. I'm in a doctor in my office. Dana lived in ICU. We had a 16-year-old daughter that was junior in high school, having pretty well raised herself at this point because Mom wasn't there. I was there max 2 days. And Dana would call me and she said, "Mark, you got to come to the hospital." I said, "Okay." There was a certain Wednesday, she called, she said, Can you come this afternoon?" I always kept a bag packed in my car, even when I was at work. So I was working that morning. She said, "Can you come this afternoon?" I said, "Well," I said, "Yeah, I can." And on my way there, I get a phone call from Dana. She said, "The doctor wants to talk to us together." I said, "Okay." The doctor said, "Well, Jennings is not doing well. As a matter of fact, she's doing very bad." And again, I'm just on speakerphone. I'm driving to Dallas. And she said, "Well," I said, "What are our 2 options?" She said, "Well, option A is I can do a procedure that I'm going to stop her heart and kill her. And I'll try to bring her back. Kind of like a computer. You know when a computer goes wrong, just turn it off, turn it back." So they wanted to stop her heart. And the doctor said, "I don't think I can get it back." I said, "Well, what's option B?" She said, "We could just wait." I said, "Don't touch her." I said, "I'm on my way." Our norm was, again, we lived in the ICU waiting area. I'm going way over. I'm sorry. Once I start, it's hard. If you need to go,
No, please go ahead.
Pastor asked me if I could fill up 20 minutes. I said, I hope so. So I'm on my way to Dallas. I said, "Don't touch her." I said, "I'm on my way." I get there, and she had stabilized a little bit. Our norm, again, was I would stay up. We'd sleep in the waiting room in these little chairs. I'd stay up in Jenny's room till about 3 in the morning, let Dana sleep. Then I'd go to sleep about 3. I'd get up at 6 in the morning to do rounds with the doctors. I wanted to hear what they were saying. I had never, ever fallen asleep in Jenny's room, ever. That night I fell asleep. The reason I know I fell asleep is because I woke up to alarms and bells and whistles and a whole team of nurses and doctors running into the room. The ECMO machine shut off. It quit working. What's keeping Jennings alive? Well, this machine is keeping Jennings alive. Well, it turned off. Now what? I'm sitting from here to there, the Jennings, and I'm watching her to see if there's going to be a struggle. I mean, if this is going to be it. And no struggle at all. I'm watching the numbers. I mean, like I said, everything in the hospital is a number. I'm watching the numbers. Nothing changed. They're rushing around. I mean, she has somebody touching every part of her body trying to see if she's still alive. Finally, they get the machine back on. And I'm sitting there. Never one time, in all the times that I've been there up to 3 o'clock in the morning, has anybody offered me a cup of coffee. After they got all the machines on, all these nice, pretty doctors and nurses that always look very calm, they all looked disheveled. I mean, hair was everywhere, the mask was half off. And the nurse came to me and she said, "Do you know what happened?" I said, "Well, I'm sitting right here." I said, "Your machine turned off." And she said, "Yeah, the machine turned off." And she said, "You know what?" I said, "What?" She said, "We got the machine back on." And she said, "You need to understand, we had this machine, this ECMO machine, running 100%, as fast as it could go, pumping as much blood as fast as it could go, and her blood oxygen level was still low. Her brain works. They took a CAT scan after she woke up. Finally, they got a CAT scan of the brain. And the doctor said, "Well, brain looks good. I said, it's a little gray, which means it still just needs to wake up. That's normal. He said, but there's one little white dot on the upper left-hand side. I said, what does that mean? He said, that's usually a brain bleed. I said, so she had a brain bleed. And her blood was as thin as water. I said, how did that bleed stop? He went, prayer, folks, prayer. God worked a miracle in our daughter's life. And it's because of you guys. You are part of a miracle of saving life. Let's just say we'd said, well, Jennings is sick. It's life. It happens. Let's just let her go. What happens? She probably dies. But it's you guys. Prayer and faith, believing that prayer, is so important. And so I say thank you that you guys cared enough to pray for a family that you knew nothing about. You don't know me. You don't know my wife. You don't know my other daughter. But you said, you know what? I'm a believer in Christ. This person needs our help. Our help can come through one thing, the sweet hour of prayer. Thank you, Pastor, for having me.
Thank you for being here.